The Giants and Eagles, New York, New Jersey against Philly. This time, it's for the right to move one step away from the Super Bowl. These longtime division rivals have played each other 4 times in the playoffs, and each team has won twice. So I guess it's time to break the tie on Saturday night in Philly for the NFC Divisional Playoffs. I'm Steve Overmyer in New York City. Joining us for the NFL Playoff Special is Pat Gallen from our sister station in Philadelphia. Pat, how's the week been in Philly?
It's good, Steve. Yeah, we're getting ready just like you guys are up there. We can't wait. It just feels like it's been forever for the Eagles since they haven't played a game in almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, and there's probably so many people that are trying to break this game down. So let's just start from that point of view. Where do you think the Eagles are going to try to exploit the Giants?
Yeah, it's a good question. The Giants look like a completely different team than when I was up at the Meadowlands in, mid-December. Where I think they'll try to beat them is in the middle of the field, offensively speaking, assuming that Jalen Hurts is as close to 100% as he can be. We saw last week when the Giants played the Vikings that they shut down Justin Jefferson. We know that New York has great cornerbacks, a good secondary, but they're sort of lacking in the middle of the field. T.J. Hawkinson went off for 10 catches, over 100 yards. Actually, the second time he's gone for 10-plus catches this year against the Giants. The Eagles have a pretty good tight end. His name is Dallas Goedert. So if the Giants secondary is able to take away A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, which is a tall task in and of itself, I would expect to see Dallas Goedert put up some big numbers this weekend.
Man, you are right on. That's exactly the guy that I was going to go with here because the Giants don't have good pass coverage linebackers, and that's the big issue with them. You know, in those 2 games, by the way, you mentioned, T.J. Hawkinson. He actually had 23 catches in 2 games for the Vikings against the Giants, and that's clearly a point of contention for this Giants defense. But if we flip things over to the other side of things, look, the Eagles, for 75% of this season, the Eagles were the absolute best team in the NFL. Without a doubt, they were the best team. They do have a little bit of a weakness. I guess if there is one vulnerability on that Giants defense, it's their their run defense. They're actually 24th in the NFL this year in yards per carry on the run defense. And the Giants actually boast the 4th best rushing offense in the entire NFL. And if there's one nugget that I feel like, man, we live in an NFL right now where everybody loves to throw the ball, and we love these quarterbacks that throw for 380 yards and 4 touchdowns. But this is still a game in the trenches. And it was never proven more true than the first week of Wild Card Weekend when all 6 teams that won their games did it by outrushing their opponents. Yeah. Do you see that as, I guess, a weak spot possibly for the Eagles secondary, the Eagles defense?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do. And you mentioned, if we're talking Eagles offense, Jalen Hurts does so much for that offense as far as their rushing attack. They're so deep. And then on the other side, we know Daniel Jones, what he proved last week, he's got some wheels for a big guy. He really stuck it to the Vikings with the ground game. And, of course, Saquon Barkley, all-world talent. And the Eagles up the middle, that's probably their weakest point, because we know they can get to the quarterback with the best of them. Top 5 all time in sacks in a season with 70. They're deep there. Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat is back. He's healthy. Javon Hargrave, 10-plus sacks. They've got talent across the board. Brandon Graham. So I would say that earlier in the year, it looked like that might not be the case when they had a healthy Jordan Davis. And now they've kind of plug some holes with your old friend up there, Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh as well. They're just not quite the same with that run-stopping defense as they are in other aspects of their game. I think, though, playoff time, they can turn it up a little bit in that area.
I mean, and to support that fact, the Giants' offensive line had the 3rd worst pressure rate allowed this year in the NFL, and the Eagles had the best pressure rate in the NFL. So it does seem like in passing situations that the Eagles will certainly have the favorability over the Giants. But I guess that kind of lends itself to the fact that, as you mentioned, Daniel Jones ran the ball 17 times. Now, not all of those carries were designed runs, but some of them were, and there's nothing that says that he can't dump the ball off to Saquon Barkley coming out of the backfield, because honestly, they should actually be taking a little bit of a page from the Eagles offense in that regard. Because that seems to be exactly why the Eagles are able to have so much success against the Giants. It's exploiting their exterior pass defense, or I should say their flats pass defense. And sometimes that's how you see them going to Boston Scott, who has been an absolute giant killer. This guy's got 10 touchdowns in his career against the Giants, 2 of them in the last game. I mean, Boston Scott just wants to play against the Giants, doesn't he?
He certainly does. Yeah, he's only got 7 touchdowns against every other team in the NFL, 10, as you mentioned, against the Giants. He's part of that 4-headed rushing attack that the Eagles have. But flipping it back to, because I think this is a really important part of this Saturday's game, is sort of the Giants taking what the Eagles do and trying to do it themselves. Because we know the Giants on the outside, you've got Hodgins, you've got Slayton, you've got Richie James, who...
I know those names don't scare you too much.
they don't scare a lot of people. That's not saying that they can't put up numbers, but I, as well as a lot of other people, are looking at what can Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley do against this Eagles defense. I think that's the number one key, the number one question this Saturday night. Well,
I think the number one question is really what percentage of Jalen Hurts are we actually going to see? I mean, he came out in Week 18. That wasn't 100% of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, when he is at his best, is the MVP of the NFL. He was proving that earlier this year. But what are we seeing? Are we going to see 65, 85%? Because I tell you what, they're going to test that shoulder. They're going to test it. They're going to check his oil. They're going to see whether or not that shoulder can take a little bit of a hit, because you know Wink Martindale loves to throw the blitzes out there, and you know that Hurts is going to face a lot of pressure, and he's not going to be diving forward trying to get those first downs. They're going to want him to take the knee. Yeah.
No, you're right. That's a smart move. Wink Martindale should absolutely come after Jalen Hurts and test that shoulder. I think what will tell the tale is, will they run the ball the same way they did throughout the year? Will he want to take those hits in the open field? We obviously did not see that in the finale with Jalen Hurts. They just wanted to get him out of that game healthy. Now, you asked the question, how close is he to 100%? 65? Nobody knows. But nobody's 100% now anyway. So I think they're about as good as they're going to be with Jalen Hurts and that shoulder. And the hope is that he's probably not going to run the ball 14, 16, 18 times. But if he can run the ball maybe 4 to 6 times on some designed runs, I think that bodes well for the Eagles, because you just got to prove to the Giants we're capable of it. Maybe not every time, but can he get out there on occasion, shy away from the big hit? That's going to be crucial.
You're absolutely right. It's going to put the onus on the Giants linebackers to choose whether or not they're falling back onto Goddard, or do they've got to keep an eye on the backfield and keep an eye on Jalen Hurts. So this is going to be a fun game to watch. Pat Gallen in Philly, thank you so much, man. I tell you what, if nothing else, it's going to be a tight game. It should be fun.
Well, hey, it doesn't get any better than Eagles, Giants in the playoffs. I can't wait. I know you can't, Steve.
Yeah, all right. And the fans as well. Is there going to be like an alcohol consumption limit there at the link?
Never. There will never be an alcohol consumption limit.
It wouldn't be Philly without it.
Or in the surrounding parking lots. Everyone's going to be pretty hyped for that one. A lot of drinking goes on before the game.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody from New York would want to go down there in the middle of that and blazing, Giants jerseys. That could be a dangerous thing. Pat, thank you so much, man. We'll see how things play out on Saturday nights in Philadelphia at 8:15.